All right, today we're jumping into a really practical guide from Paul Metcher on how to build a successful construction company. We're going to break it down and frame it as a blueprint, a game plan for a company that's ready to grow, a company just like Alpha Constructions.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got 5 key parts. First, we'll get real about the construction challenge itself. Then, we'll talk about how to win the right kind of projects. After that, it's all about executing for profit. Then, we get into building up your team and your reputation. And we'll finish with a big one, navigating the paradox of growth.
Okay, first things first, let's lay the foundation. What makes this industry so incredibly tough to succeed in? I think Paul Metcher just nails it right from the get-go with this quote. It really gets to the core of the problem, doesn't it? Running a single project is tough enough, but trying to run an entire construction company, well, that's a whole different level of challenge.
And this is exactly why. The book paints this picture of the industry as a total roller coaster. It's all high risk, but the rewards can be surprisingly low. We're not just talking about physical risks on site, but the financial ones. The profit margins are so thin, so razor thin, that one bad project, just one, can literally wipe out years of hard work. It can take a company down completely.
So, with stakes that high, how do you even begin to succeed? Well, that brings us to the most important part. See, success doesn't start on the job site. It starts way before that. It's all about winning the right kind of projects.
Which leads to this question, and it's a big one. It's the kind of thing that probably keeps a lot of company owners up at night. When things are slow, is it better to take on a bad project just to keep the team busy than to have no project at all?
Well, look at the difference here. A bad project isn't just a missed opportunity. It actively hurts you. It drains your resources, burns out your best people, and just crushes morale. But the right project, that's a building block. It comes with a fair price, manageable risk, and it actually builds your reputation and opens doors for more good work down the line. And here it is. This is the key insight from the book, and honestly, it's a real game changer. It is so much better to have your crew sitting at home losing $0 than to have them working their tails off for months on end only to lose money. Learning to say no to bad work isn't a sign of failure. It's one of the smartest business moves you can make.
All right, so you've been smart, you've been disciplined, you've landed the right project. Now what? Now your entire focus has to switch to execution. This is where you build the real framework of your business.
And there's a huge clue in the book itself about how important this is. If you look at the table of contents, the 2 longest chapters, by far, are on tendering and reducing costs. That is absolutely not a coincidence. It tells you everything you need to know. Profit in construction isn't something you just hope for at the end. It's something you have to manufacture every single day. You start by pricing the project right in the tender, sure. But after that, it's a battle. You have to work efficiently, control every cost without cutting corners, and make sure you get paid for all the work you actually do. That's where the money is made, or where it vanishes.
And this is why it's so critical. In a business with tiny margins, every single dollar you save isn't just a dollar. It's a dollar of pure profit. It goes straight to your bottom line. It's what makes a company like Alpha Constructions not just profitable, but strong and resilient for the long haul. Okay, but we all know a company is so much more than spreadsheets and profits. Let's talk about the things that create a real legacy, your people and your reputation. These are the pillars holding the whole thing up.
Because here's the unvarnished truth. Your company's brand, its reputation, it's not decided in some marketing meeting. No, it's built out there on the ground by every single person on your team, on every single job site, day in and day out.
And Metcher just puts it so bluntly here. He says contractors are only as good as their last mistake. And that's kind of brutal, but it's true. It shows you just how fragile a good reputation is. All those years of doing great work can be undone by one major screw-up.
So you have to treat reputation as a core part of the business. Why? Well, clients remember what went wrong way more than what went right. A bad name will lose you work. I don't care how cheap your bid is. And that's why finding, training, and keeping good people isn't just an HR thing. It's a direct investment in your company's survival and its legacy.
Now this brings us to our last section, and honestly, it might be the most counterintuitive part of this whole thing. It's what the author calls the ultimate test, navigating the paradox of growth.
So, let me just ask you this. What do you think is the #1 threat to a construction company that's doing great? They're profitable, they've got a solid reputation. What's the biggest danger they face?
Well, the book's answer is probably not what you'd expect. It's not a bad economy. It's not some ruthless competitor. The biggest threat to a successful company is the very thing it's trying to achieve: growth. Specifically, uncontrolled growth.
So why does this happen? Well, think about it. As you get bigger, the owner can't be everywhere at once. The new people you hire might not have that same fire, that same obsession with quality. All this simple, informal systems you used when you were small, they just completely break down. And suddenly, you look at the books and realize your projects just aren't profitable anymore.
All right, let's pull all these pieces together now. What does the final blueprint for success really look like? What are the biggest takeaways for a company like Alpha Constructions?
I absolutely love this quote from the book's intro. It just sums up the whole philosophy. Being successful in this business isn't about getting lucky. It's about systematically creating your own luck, day after day.
And that's the bottom line. Real, lasting success isn't an accident. It's built on a foundation of disciplined systems. A system for choosing your projects, a system for controlling your costs, a system for protecting your reputation, and a real, intentional plan for how you're going to grow. It's all about the process.
So we'll leave it with this final question, a question for everybody, especially those at Alpha Constructions, to think about. Looking at this whole blueprint, what is the one single system you can point to and say, we're going to make that better starting right now?